highlight other measures put in place to ensure strict enforcement of the Ministry of Education's safety and healthy guidelines in all schools. I thank you, Mr. Speaker. She's from my delegation.
Yes, Senator Wakili. You know you can always on a point of order. So
thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Allow me to correct an impression that might have been created earlier on when I was seeking for statement that that I sought for the statement from the Committee of Justice, Legal Affairs rather than National Security, Defense and Human Rights Relations. So my statement is seeking from the Standing Committee of National Security, Defense and Human Rights and not Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, which I chair. That is the correction that I desired to make, and thank you, Mr. Speaker.
very well. Now, honorable senators, at this juncture, allow me to rearrange the sequence of the order paper. Senator Ledama, sorry. Senator Ledama.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm too tall to be forgotten. I really appreciate you allowing me to read these two statements. Mr. Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Trade, Industrialization and Tourism on the status of tourism and consequent lease agreements entered into by proprietors in the Greater Masai Mara, the Mara Triangle, and the County Government of Narok. In the statement, the committee should, 1, provide a list of all the lodges and camps operating within the Greater Masai Mara and the Mara Triangle, stating their locations and accommodation capacities. Number 2, table all lease agreements between the County Government of Narok and the proprietors of the lodges and camps within the Greater Masai Mara and the Mara Triangle, stating any specific obligation placed on the proprietors to Narok residents who reside within the environs of the park. Number 3, provide details of the lease agreement between the County Government of Narok and MGM Methu Hotels to manage and operate Kikorok Lodge, which is owned by Narok County Government, listing and providing the details of the shareholders and shareholding structures of the company, stating whether there are any loans guaranteed by the county government and indicate whether the company is registered in Kenya. Number 4, table the ownership documents for Kikorok Lodge in Masai Mara, including but not limited to the title deed, and list all the revenue streams and their value generated from the lodges and the camps in the Greater Masai Mara and the Mara Triangle for the past 2 years, which should include but not limited to bed night fees, royalties, and lease ground fees. Mr. Speaker, with your permission, I can read the second statement. My second statement, Mr. Speaker, is that I rise pursuant to Standing Order number 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Roads, Housing and Transportation on the status of utilization of the development budget in the Department of Public Works, Roads, Transport, and in the County Government of Narok. In the statement, the committee should, 1, provide the approved user requisitions for the Public Works, Roads and Transport Department for fiscal year 22-23. 2, list all procurement projects under the Public Works, Roads, Transport Department budget line in the County Government of Narok for the financial year 2022-2023, indicating the amounts for each approved project and their status of implementation. Number 3, lists of all pre-qualified and contracted vendors, approved and suppliers companies awarded tenders for services listing their names, CR12, and their tax identification numbers, KRA pins, amount awarded to each in the financial year 2022-2023 under the development budget. Number 4, provide a list of all tenders awarded during the financial year 2022-2023 by the department, listing the cost of each award, stating the names of those who applied and who was awarded the tender, the basis of the award, stating their details such as their KRA, PIN, and CR12. And finally, state any pending bills in the Public Works, Roads and Transport Department line item budget 2022-2023, furnishing the details of the vendors to whom the county government owes money. Mr. Speaker, I thank you.
So, honorable senators, at this juncture, allow me under Standing Order 45-2 for the convenience of the House to rearrange the sequence of today's order paper and proceed to Majority Leader. What is your intervention?
Mr. Speaker, the intervention button had been on because there are a number of statements requested under Standing Order number 53-1, and I had hoped to make a comment on one of them particularly. That's why I was trying to get your attention, because there's something I wanted to say about one of them. If you permit, because of course it has to be when you permit.
Okay, I'll permit for 15 minutes limited intervention, starting with the Majority Leader. You have 3 minutes to do that.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, the statement by Senator Sigei should not pass without notice, because I follow news. As a senator, I pay a lot of interest in what happens in all our 47 counties, much as I have a specific county. Because when you take the oath of office, Mr. Speaker, we defend the interest of counties, and it's not specifically just your county alone. Therefore, as Senate, occasionally we get concerned when certain trends are beginning to take shape in many of our counties. Mr. Speaker, in another life, I would have been a journalist, if not a politician. And therefore, I am gravely concerned that journalists serving in our various county headquarters have been forced to live under very difficult circumstances. That if they don't sing the tune of the local county governor or the county government, Mr. Speaker, they are threatened, they are attacked, they are victimized. I can count off the top of my mind no less than 10 counties, Mr. Speaker, where I have seen journalists being attacked the last few years. Therefore, this is not a light issue, Mr. Speaker. It's not just in Bomet alone. If you are a keen follower of news and you consume local news, Mr. Speaker, you would notice that there have been so many attacks on journalists, either because they have highlighted a story in a particular county government, and therefore, Mr. Speaker, this is not something that we need to treat casually. It is my sincere hope, Mr. Speaker, that Kenya Union of Journalists and the Media Council of Kenya, Mr. Speaker, will come to the Senate when this presentation is being made, so that we can have the statistics of the number of journalists who serve in our various counties that have been attacked on account of simply doing their work, Mr. Speaker. The governors who send goons, Mr. Speaker, to attack these journalists because they have refused to sing their tune, Mr. Speaker, must be named and censured in this House, Mr. Speaker, because we cannot be bystanders. Media practitioners are our partners in highlighting either the good or the bad in our counties, Mr. Speaker. And when they go about their duties, Mr. Speaker, it should be in an amiable environment where they are free of threats and they live their life normally like any other citizen, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, this issue I felt should not just be left to rest as is, Mr. Speaker, and handled at JLAC. This is something that we must speak boldly about, and as a House we must take a decision until our journalists are free in the various counties. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator, no, Clerk, there's a problem with there's a problem with the system, Clerk. Can you rectify that? Because I can see even honorable senators coming to intervention. So, Honorable Sifuna Edwin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As a member of the SBC, I'm a bit concerned about the statement that was read by Senator Hamida. Yes, Senator Hamida Kibwana, regarding the delays in processing of legislative business in the House. And I want to undertake, both as a leader and as a member of SBC, to work together with my colleagues in the SBC
to be able to solve some of the bottlenecks that we're experiencing in the committees in terms of processing of bills. She has given me an example of a bill, I think it is a coconut or nuts and oils bill, that she brought at the inception of the House, and until today she says she has not seen that statement. Mr. Speaker, regarding the freedom, that bill, freedom of the media, I want to confirm here that I am facing very serious challenges even here in Nairobi. That in fact, Mr. Speaker, the media in Nairobi can no longer be said to be free. Yesterday we had a session with the governor of Nairobi at the housing committee regarding the largest development of housing in the entire country. 13 estates covering 4,000 acres of land. Mr. Speaker, would you know it, that anything that is negative covering my governor will never make it to primetime news on any of the networks. And it's not coincidence, because I've monitored ever since we began the oversight program in this county. So, Mr. Speaker, we want the media practitioners to be allowed to work freely, whatever it is, impartially. If the senator of Nairobi is not doing his job, it should be highlighted. If the governor is not performing, it should also be highlighted. You cannot just nitpick stories, Mr. Speaker. And they are being put under conditions where if they don't toe the line, you can see what is happening in Bomet. People are being attacked, Mr. Speaker. So we will stand up for the freedom of the media, but the media must meet us halfway in defending the independence of this great institution. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Kathuri Murungi.
Oh, thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to make a very brief comment on the statement requested by Senator Sigei. Mr. Speaker, as my colleague Majority Leader has clearly put it, the journalists in the counties are under a very serious siege. And Mr. Speaker, some of the areas that they're operating from, especially areas that they are not friendly to the ruling governors, Mr. Speaker, our journalists are getting serious problems, sometimes even being laughed up by supporters of those governors. I remember an incident last year, Mr. Speaker, when one of the journalists in Meru County was really laughed up in a meeting that was attended by the governor. And since that time, because of the fear that they have, the news that they should recover from those administrators in the county, they are not able to get them because of the intimidations that they are suffering from. So, Mr. Speaker, as I make my comment, I want to lead the committee that will handle this issue to really invite the ICJ and all other relevant bodies that should protect our journalists, so that, Mr. Speaker, we can have very free journalists who are independent, because even the Constitution is really defending the journalists, because they are free and they should be respected. They should have no intimidation at all, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, I really want to agree with my colleagues that we want to really sanitize and to clean that system. And I think, Mr. Speaker, you know, when you are elected as a governor, you are not elected as a ruler. Those history we learned many years ago in the 16th century, Mr. Speaker. This is an era that once you are elected as a leader, you should be very consultative, you should be very, very friendly with the people that you are leading, and listening to each and everybody, Mr. Speaker. But what we are witnessing in this current regime, Mr. Speaker, it is unfortunate, but the time will come when all of them, those who are behaving like rulers of kingdoms, their time will come when their time, the time for rule to rule will come to an end, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Senator Fatuma Dulo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to comment on the statement by Deputy Speaker on insecurity between Isiolo and Meru. And I wish to thank him for bringing that particular statement, because there is a big problem in those areas for a very long time. And I do also thank CS Interior, Kithure Kindiki, for having actually done a wonderful job and having visited those areas several times, and again providing NPR to complement the normal security. But Mr. Speaker, despite all that, we are losing our people on a daily basis. And more specifically, those counties that are bordering Isiolo, we are always having a challenge as a Isiolo that we are boxed in a corner because we have attack from Marsabit, from Samburu, from Wajir, from Garissa, from Meru. You see, it's a lot of problem. But I think it's high time that we deal with insecurity in all those areas. Mr. Speaker,
what is your point of order, Senator Kathuri Murungi?
I think my colleague, my neighbor, Ngunde neighbor, Senator Nduro, is it by mistake that you mentioned that Meru County attacks Isiolo? Or it is just vice versa? Because you started very well that we are the problem
Deputy
we are
Speaker,
getting. Can you kindly clarify whether it is the opposite?
Senator
Or maybe it was a slip of the tongue. Yes, Mr. Speaker.
You are the Deputy Speaker. And you've always been asking. Yes, that much I know. The reason why I'm using that title is you enforce rules of this House. And you know, the fundamental rule of a point of order is once you rise, the first thing you do is to state the standing order under which you're raising your point of order, and then you proceed. You've always been telling these honorable senators to do that. Now it's your turn to do it. Proceed, proceed, proceed.
So, Mr. Speaker, actually, it's just a clarification from my colleague, Senator Duro, that, and we are very good neighbors and leaders with that. We have never really had any issue. But I want her to put in the record that there is no time that Isiolo get attacks from Meru. But Isiolo, I know, is used as a conduit or as a passage by those people who are even from other counties. They pass Isiolo and then attack Meru. Even Samburu, the Turkanas, they bypass Isiolo. But Honorable Duro, maybe you can clarify, and that also you would see also how you can be able to manage that corridor, so that
Senator
also the
Kathuri,
attackers
thanks for the
don't.
information. That's the point of information. Kindly proceed and conclude, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank Deputy Speaker for that information. In as much as I agree with his last statement, if he wants me to provide evidence that there are sometimes attacks that are coming from Meru County, I can provide that. But the bottom line is, Mr. Speaker, we have to have a safe environment where we protect our people and we protect our properties. So that is the most important thing. Number two, Mr. Speaker, as far as freedom of speech is concerned, I agree with my colleagues. There are so many problems in the counties where individuals cannot even comment on particular leaders because they believe that nobody can talk about them. And I think it is democratic for anybody to comment on whatever they feel that it is right. But I think as leaders, we need to protect freedom of speech in our counties, because if a governor can actually wake up and threaten anybody that comments about them, it's unacceptable in all those counties. Mr. Speaker, I think we need to protect freedom of speech in our counties, and more so, especially the journalists who are actually doing the right job. And some of them, actually, they are forced to be given some money to write certain information against other individuals, which is unprocedural and professional. Mr. Speaker, we need to do something more so when we are doing our oversight right now. There are so many challenges on the ground that the Senate and the security agencies, they need to protect our people in those counties. I thank you.
Senator Boni.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to strongly agree with Senator Sigei about his fears for our media. Mr. Speaker, it is shocking that using the tool of violence and using the tool of money, governors are making it very difficult for the public to know how well we oversight them. Mr. Speaker, a case in hand was when the Committee of Finance and Budget of Senate went and sat outside this parliamentary precincts at great expense to unearth the abuse of office and misuse of public funds in the county government of Kakamega. Mr. Speaker, we were there for 2 days, and some of the functions were being covered real time by the media, but nothing came out. Why, Mr. Speaker? The governor has intimidated the media practitioners, using violence, and Mr. Speaker, using money. The media operators, especially the guild, should help us in ensuring that the professional ethics are maintained by the reporters on the ground and even by themselves here in Nairobi, so that when information comes from the grassroots, it must be aired from Nairobi. What happens in between, money is exchanged and whatnot, and a very important piece of information dies, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if we do not kill the power of money, if we do not kill the power of violence, then our oversight responsibility will die. I therefore want to urge the committee to do more. And we should also be alive, Mr. Speaker, to the fact that media is a changing profession. The person who was yesterday a practitioner in alternative media, even as far-fetched as those people who write on social platforms, they are now becoming media practitioners. We should protect even the people who transmit information through social media for as long as it is ethical and professional. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Mazayo.
Asante Bwana Spika. Bwana Spika, napenda kuunga mkono hii taarifa iliyoletwa hapa na wakili Siegei ambaye yeye ni seneta wa Bomet. Bwana Spika, cha kwanza kabisa ni kwamba waandishi wa habari ni kitu muhimu sana katika taifa lolote linaloegemea upande wa demokrasia. Bwana Spika, kama ilivyoandikwa katika taarifa, ni jambo la kusikitisha kuona kwamba polisi ama watu waliotumwa wanaweza kuchukua sheria katika mikono yao na kuweza kuwapiga ama kuwafurusha ama kuwaumiza vibaya ama hata pia kuweza kuharibu vile vifaa ambavyo vilikuwa vinatumiwa kwa upande wa kuchukua habari kwa wale wanahabari waliokuwa wanaangalia shida hiyo. Bwana Spika, kwa mara nyingi sana tunaona kwamba shule za chekechea katika kaunti zote 47, Bwana Spika, wewe ukiwa kama ulikuwa gavana pale unaelewa, kumekuwa na shida sana kutengeneza hizo shule na kumekuwa na changamoto kubwa sana ya kuweza kuona kama walimu wanaoweza kufanya kazi katika zile skuli za chekechea wanatosha ama hawatoshi, wengine wanapungua, na kuna challenges mingi sana ndani ya zile shule za chekechea. Bwana Spika, ni jambo la kusikitisha kuona ya kwamba kwa wakati fulani walimu ambao wanafanya kazi ama wale watu waliokwenda kukava ile, waliokwenda kuangalia ni kitu gani kilichotokea pale, waliweza kutumiwa majangili. Bwana Spika, kila mtu anaongea ndani ya kama kidogo.
Order, honorable senators. Senator Mundigi.
Kwa hiyo Bwana Spika, langu tu ni kusema ya kwamba waandishi wa habari ambao ni kiegezo ama ni kitengo muhimu sana katika demokrasia yetu ambao tunajivunia ndani ya Kenya.
Senator Eddie, you shall kneel only before God, not before man. Take your seat.
Kiegezo kama hicho, Bwana Spika, ni jambo ambalo mimi nataka kulikemea zaidi, na kwamba ni lazima tuone ya kwamba hatua imechukuliwa, kama ile kamati ambayo tuko nayo hapa, ambayo ni kamati ya ulinzi katika taifa letu la Kenya. Hii kamati ya Senate ni lazima iende ndani, iangalie kiini chake ni sababu ya hivi kuweza kuona kwamba hawa waandishi wa habari ama wale waliokuwa wakiangalia ama wakichukua picha ama wakiweza kuona ya kwamba watu wengine ambao walikuwa hawako huko Bomet wameweza kuarifiwa. Watu kama hawa ni lazima wapewe ulinzi wa kutosha. Kwa hiyo Bwana Spika, mimi naunga mkono taarifa hii ya kwamba ni lazima pia ile Media Council ambao wao ndio wakubwa wa wale waandishi wa habari pia iweze kupewa nafasi ya kuweza kustadi ama kuangalia kwa kina, kuona ya kwamba haki imetendeka na utetezi wa wale wanahabari ambao walikuwa wanaangalia na kuweza kuleta taarifa hii wameweza kupewa haki zao. Asante Bwana Spika.
Senator Chiranke.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I want to congratulate colleagues who have brought statement, but what have got my attention is one or two statements, Mr. Speaker, in quick succession. One is on the issue of media freedom. I think I said in some fora that it is safer for media to work in Gaza than to work in some of these counties that we have in this country, especially in Nandi. In fact, Nandi, we want to declare it Gaza too, because the other day, Mr. Speaker, a journalist by the name called Philip Kipsongok of Royal Media Services under the local dialect vernacular Chamge FM was attacked. His recorder was taken while he was covering harassment by county enforcement officers at Nandi Hills Town, Mr. Speaker. I think you, having the insight of being a former governor, you should now dispense Solomonic wisdom to some of these governors that trying to stifle the sharing of information as one is envisaged under Article 34, Mr. Speaker, on the freedom of media is unfortunate, it is barbaric, it is primitive, it is undemocratic, Mr. Speaker. Because what is happening, and I want to challenge the committee that this statement will go, I don't know it is the statement of ICT where you as truly sits or the national security, because what is happening with the county governments, they are now transiting or transforming county enforcement askaris to be the governor's goons. And we are seeing everywhere, Mr. Speaker. Nowadays, you see the enforcement officers, they are only of a glorified goons that have worked the enforcement askaris at that level, Mr. Speaker. So in Nandi, Mr. Speaker, they are being transported. Say that when you as truly wants to question the use of funds, you find specific people who have worn county askaris uniform shouting you down. Mr. Speaker, it is good some of us have some technical expertise on how to handle such goons. But I want to say, Mr. Speaker, for the people who are new in the field, it might be a challenge, but I will give them advice under Chai and Mandazi. But my only concern is the National Security Chair. I saw him is around. Let us know these county enforcement askaris used by governors, Mr. Speaker. What is the intention? So, Mr. Speaker, in Nandi, and I know, and I want to agree with my colleagues in conclusion, Mr. Speaker, sir, that most of these journalists are rather govern national news than county news. They are no longer safe. They are being threatened. Even some journalists were telling me that our governor was sending the saboteur messages, Mr. Speaker, when they were doing a media awareness week in Kapsabet, Mr. Speaker. So they are living in fear. And you know, these are people, they are human beings, they don't have security, they live with us, Mr. Speaker, and you know their only weapon, as media have, is a weapon of the pen, Mr. Speaker. For example, like yesterday, I saw the high voltage engagement of Nairobi City County between the senator and the governor, Mr. Speaker, but you didn't find in any mainstream media, Mr. Speaker. It is only social media that we are being given snippets of what transpired at the engagement in the Housing Committee, Mr. Speaker. So I agree that media also must work with us so that we can expose ills that continue in oversight, Mr. Speaker. Finally, on the issue of Senator Tabitha, on the issue of infrastructure of schools, Mr. Speaker, I agree. We still have a challenge, Mr. Speaker. I think outside even Nairobi, the school you say about Mwiki, other schools across, Mr. Speaker, it is all state. I want to challenge the chairperson. I saw Senator Newtu and other education committee members Please, let's take it up. This education system is the greatest equalizer of all of us, Mr. Speaker. I saw TSC for the first time, Mr. Speaker, since 2014. We are doing promotion of teachers, Mr. Speaker. We need to ensure motivation of most of the promotion of teachers, Mr. Speaker. We need to ensure also the issue of the localization is removed, Mr. Speaker, so that even as we do reforms, Mr. Speaker, at the TSC, we must ensure it going to the future, Mr. Speaker, because even the CEO of TSC is past 60 years, Mr. Speaker, and there was a circular that had been issued by the public service and other agencies, Mr. Speaker. So the reforms within TSC and the Education Ministry, Mr. Speaker, must be relooked so that we support infrastructure not only in Mwiki, but other primary schools and secondary schools and learning institutions across the country. With those many remarks, Mr. Speaker, I beg to support and I thank you.
Senator Osotsi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, allow me to comment on two statements. The first statement by Senator Hamida on the delay in processing bills. I want to fully agree that we have a very serious problem, Mr. Speaker, that we do our duty of developing bills, but those bills take a long time to be processed for publication. So I think that's an issue that needs to be addressed by the Senate Business Committee so that we can even be told the process and the time frame that it takes to process a bill, rather than just leaving it like that. You can say for 1 year, you have your bill not processed. I have an example. When I joined this Senate, together with the Senator of Kiambu, we made a request. We did a legislative proposal for Ward Development Fund bill. Up to date, I have not even seen a copy of what we had proposed. So this is a very serious problem, Mr. Speaker, and I think it's something that the leadership of this House should take up. On the issue of the statement by Senator Sigei, Mr. Speaker, the harassment of journalists by county government is one of the tactics of killing oversight in our counties. They are using all manner of tactics. And not just local journalists, even national journalists. I have had a case where a story appeared in one of the dailies, and a governor called one of the media houses and threatened to deny them business for publishing a story which was critical on the issue of pending bills. Mr. Speaker, I think this is a matter that we need to look at. And many other tactics. This week, one of us has gone to court because of refusal to provide documents for oversight. That is Senator Busia and Senator Ladama here. So there are various tactics that our governors are using to deny us our constitutional right to conduct oversight. And I think the committee should go beyond just the issue of journalists. They look at the issue of access to information. Because journalists need to access information, senators also need to access information. This must stop. And Mr. Speaker, if we don't stop this, it is now getting to a different serious level. I have seen one of the counties where the governor organized demonstration against the senator because of oversight. That you conduct your oversight and then some goons are organized to go and demonstrate and accuse you for interfering with the running of the county when you are doing your duty as a senator to oversight. So, Mr. Speaker, I think this is just the tip of the iceberg. There are serious tactics that our governors are using to kill oversight in the counties. So I support the two statements, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Mofaya.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I want to support the statement by my neighbor, my good friend, Wakili Sigei. Honorable Speaker, I think I would need your protection. There's some people who are consulting around me.
Order, honorable senators. May the good senator be heard in silence, please.
I think that statement is time, Honorable Speaker, considering that we have witnessed a lot a lot of chaos in various parts of this country, especially counties. You know, journalists, Honorable Speaker, are supposed to enlighten the public on some of the things that are happening downstream in our counties. And it's the high time, Honorable Speaker, this House is supposed to stamp an authority to make sure that journalism, our media people are protected, because they are supposed now to highlight the people, to enlighten people on exactly the evils and all the corruption deals are being orchestrated by our governors in the counties. So this statement is timely because, Honorable Speaker, a very good case in example, recently we had a case in Meru where one of the bloggers was brutally murdered simply because he was trying to give some issues to do with what was happening in some part of that county. So, Honorable Speaker, that is statement because it has been referred to the Committee on Security. We expect that committee to make sure that they have sampled quite a number of counties where those journalists are being threatened. And maybe those people are supposed to be brought before this House so that they make any sense. And because as a House, we are supposed to make sure that freedom of expression is being witnessed as enshrined in the Constitution. So, Honorable Speaker, I strongly support the statement by Honorable Sigei that as a Senate, as a House, this is the high time we are supposed to uphold the dignity of our journalists. I support.
Senator Eddy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just wanted to, first of all, quickly make a comment on Senator Amida's statement. Indeed, this is a challenge, Mr. Speaker, given that we are in this House for a short time, just 5 years, and usually given the nature of our politics, Mr. Speaker, by the 4th year, people start campaigning. And sometimes it becomes very difficult to rally people to this House to be able to pass some laws. My happiness and my pride would be if all senators can be able to be an authority